Starting herbs from seed is a great way to increase the diversity of plant material available to you and also begin herbs at a low cost. Now with herbs, we start in much the same way we do with any other plant, but it's important to carefully read either seed packets or catalog descriptions to know what are the specific requirements of your herbs. Some plants don't transplant very well. Borage, for example, it's much better to directly sow those seeds right into the garden, because if you try to transplant them, you'll disturb their roots and possibly cause the plant to die. Now other plants do great starting indoors and benefit from growing for several weeks in a nice controlled climate before we bring them outside. You'll find that information on the back of your seed packet, and when it comes to indoor timing, usually you'll find wording that describes the starting time for your seeds as the number of weeks before your average frost-free date. And that's to ensure the plants are in the proper stage of development when it's time to move them outside. So we want to begin with a container that's 2 to 3 inches deep, filled with a well-drained media. And if you have a container, you always want to make sure there's holes in it. If it's not designed specifically for seed starting, punch your own holes in. Now, depending on the type of herb we're growing, we're going to have different requirements when it comes to light and also the amount of time it takes to germinate. So the first thing I like to do when I'm growing my seeds is prepare some labels and also look at how long do these plants take to germinate. And some plants take a very long time. Parsley and lavender, rosemary, the seeds can take weeks to germinate. And so it's a really good idea, if you have a number of small containers, to put different herbs in different containers. And that's because if you have a very fast germinating seed growing right next to one that takes 2 weeks, at some point one of those two plants is going to be in an unfavorable environment for development. So this way we can control the climate around that seed specifically for that plant. The next thing we want to consider is light exposure. So for example, I have a lemon balm and a sage here. Sage can be buried in trough. They need darkness for these seeds to germinate. So I just start them in a narrow little furrow that I've dug in the soil, spreading the seeds along there. And then I'll just very gently cover those seeds up with soil. And this provides the darkness that they need in order to germinate. But there's other plants, including the lemon balm and many others, that actually need light in order to germinate. And you might think of these as seeds that very easily fall to the ground from the plants in the garden and germinate in place. They don't need to get covered. And so with these, we're going to spread them out on the soil surface. These are very fine seeds. And if you wish, you can just gently press them like that, which will help them come in contact with the soil and the moisture in that soil, but we're not going to cover them so that they can be exposed to light. Now my lemon balm and my sage are each labeled, and I'll go ahead and cover those containers until they germinate. Now if you're a beginning herb gardener, you might start with some of the easier seeds to germinate. Chives, dill, basil, these are all very easy herbs to grow, great for the beginner. Just remember to keep your seeds covered, which helps maintain a nice moist growing environment. Once our seedlings emerge, we can take the covers off and just maintain a nice evenly moist soil. We'll be ready to transplant these herb seedlings into individual containers once they're about 2 to 3 inches tall and have their first several sets of true leaves.